Welcome to the Campervan Cast, the podcast where Dan and Lee will take you step by step through the process of choosing, buying, repairing, maintaining and converting your very own campervan, all via the wonderful medium of audio. And we're going to be filming it too, so you can watch it on the Combe Valley Campers YouTube channel. On this week's episode, we will be discussing why a campervan.
That is right, but before we get started, we've just had our Christmas break. How did it treat you?
Well, Christmas 2020 was a funny one, wasn't it? Myself and my entire family tested positive for COVID. So we spent 2 weeks in isolation. And to that, I will say, definitely be careful what you wish for.
Yep, you wanted 2 weeks off over Christmas and you most certainly got that.
I haven't had a week off all year. And I'm like, right, Christmas, I'm definitely having 2 weeks off. And I was given 2 weeks off with my family. And no one else, sadly, because we had to self-isolate. But yeah, 2 weeks over Christmas with COVID. I'm going to count it as a blessing, really, because I haven't spent that much time with my family for 4 years, just because everything's so busy. So yeah, I know it's devastating to a lot of people. And I don't want to start a podcast with any sort of downtime, but Christmas is so weird. What about yours?
We had the same. We were self-isolating. We stayed in. All our plans were cancelled anyway, because obviously we weren't allowed to do anything. So yeah, we stayed in and made the most of Netflix and Amazon Prime subscriptions, definitely.
Yeah, thank the Lord for Disney Plus in my house.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Kept the peace.
We did all of the Disney and all of the Marvel and everything else. But no, in reality, it wasn't a bad Christmas. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best. But it was kind of a relief to get out of the house and then come back to work. And what a busy one it's been. And we're starting the season straight away. It's January the 14th today?
Something like that now, yep.
January the 14th, and we are smashing straight into it. For those who don't know, we also run a business and a YouTube channel called Combe Valley Campers. And when Boris Johnson on the 4th of January, was it the 4th?
Yep.
He told the world we were going to go, or told the country we were going to go into a Tier 5 or full national lockdown. So when that happened, I rang up all the people who I knew in business and said, we're going to take full advantage of this and we're going to help everybody out as well. And we're going to provide all of our supporters, followers and the general public, if they want to, with a video a day. Now, was that a silly idea or was that the best idea we've ever had?
I mean, it's going well so far. We're only 3 or 4 days into it.
4 days
it feels like we've been doing it for weeks.
Yep.
It's been the most planning we've ever done. And I know when we came back to work this year, we're like, right, this year we're going to plan more. We're going to plan everything.
We've had no choice but
we've
to.
We've had to now, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Normally it's, okay, well, we've got a video coming up this week. What we're going to do is we've got one tonight at 8 o'clock. What we're going to, so it's, a lot busier.
Credit to everybody on the team. So credit to you, Dan. Credit to Izzy. Credit to Ali for working behind the scenes for hours and hours and hours to just get the content out there, and
yourself for bringing it all together.
It's all got to start somewhere in it.
Yes,
and it's the team that make it.
Absolutely. So this week we are talking about why you should choose a camper van, and there's lots of different areas. We're not going to go into too much detail on sort of different types necessarily, but we're going to sort of the whole overall and comparing it to some similar sort of activities you could do. So we're going to compare it to motorhomes and camping as well. So shall we start off with what is a camper van?
Yeah, well, for again, people who don't know, we run a business and a YouTube channel that converts vans, and we show people how to convert vans because it is a life, it's a lifestyle. And it's just providing people with so much value, isn't it? I think that's what it's down to, is value and life and everything else. And I guess, as you've seen by the title, you clicked on it, it is why choose a camper van. And starting with what is a camper van, I guess I don't know, it means a lot of things for a lot of different people.
I think that's the thing.
You own one?
Yes.
I own one.
You own a couple.
Yeah, I say a couple. That's about right.
They're all in pieces.
We've worked
various stages of readiness.
We've worked on hundreds, and again, I would say they mean what is a camper van means quite a lot to a lot of different people. But for those who are starting out on their journey, a camper van is a vehicle, more often than not a van or some sort of load carrying vehicle that has the rear or the load area converted into a habitable area in the form of soft furnishings, utilities like fridges and hobs and sinks, a bed, seating area. In fact, what we could probably do is just completely list off the DVLA regulations.
That literally came to my mind.
Yeah.
Then is what is classified sort of legally, and I think that's another point as well. There's a motorhome side of it, and there's the camper van, and those areas they're very similar. At the same time, they're completely different vehicles as well. And I'll go into that more in a minute. But
so we don't deal generally with motorhomes. We deal with camper vans, and the camper van is that smaller vehicle anywhere up. Well, I'd say anywhere from the old little Bedford Rascals potentially up to a huge Mercedes Sprinter long wheelbase high top thing. That is the sort of things we deal with, isn't it, day to day?
Yeah,
the smaller caddy vans all the way up to big Sprinters, Fiat Ducatos, whatever they are. And one that has been insulated, panelled, got some windows in, and is basically a vehicle that you can drive from point to point, and, for want of a better word, live in.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things you say about you can drive from point to point, and I think with the camper van side of it, we've got, obviously, compared to a motorhome, you can use it as a daily driver a lot easier. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know anyone, I know you might do, but anyone that uses a motorhome as a daily drive to get to work, but there's a lot of people that have their vans and they drive it to work every day, and at the weekend they use it as a camper, and they work perfectly for that. So, I mean, with buying mine, that's the biggest thing I found, because when I bought mine, I did own another vehicle.
Yeah.
And then for various reasons, I got rid of that car, and the van stepped up to it. It's not the newest, it's not the oldest, it's 2003 T4, and the drive is surprisingly nice for a commercial vehicle of that age. And I think that's the thing with it. A few small modifications can really make it sort of a comfortable vehicle to live with.
And that's it. And I guess it's a step up in terms of luxury and accessibility as well. So if you are choosing a camper van and you found us or this podcast because you're thinking about camper vans, it's for one of many reasons also. A camper van is that next level of luxury. It's that next level of investment. It's ease of use, because you can literally rock up to a site, and that could be any site. It could be a site at work, a site at a campsite, a site on the beach, whatever it is. You can rock up. You don't even really need to set up depending on your camper van. You just open the door and you are on holiday, or you are on site where you want to be, and you can just throw the kids out the door, throw the dog out, go and enjoy your day, and then either jump back in, use it as like a mobile beach hut, for example. A lot of people I know living down the south coast, you see that quite a lot as well. And there's lots of different ways you can play that camper van game. So a camper van, to sum that bit up, I guess, a camper van is a small enough vehicle that you can potentially drive day to day, but certainly one that is adaptable and I guess usable in more ways than one.
Yeah, I think that's we find a lot when people come to us and go, can you make me a van? You go, okay, well, what do you want to use it for? And it's not just one thing.
That's people the first question.
Yeah.
It's what it should be. And again, I think we'll discuss it further in other podcasts, but that is, I guess, the next big kicker, isn't it? Why do you want it?
Yeah.
Why choose a camper van, and what you're going to use it for? I think we're probably just going to divulge into that today. What do you reckon?
I think so, because it has so many different areas that you can go into, because obviously there's the size of a vehicle, where you live will have an effect. If you see people living in the city, I've seen a lot of people going into London for the day and then leaving with a nice big fine because their vehicle's now a 30-year-old diesel van, and they don't like it. So that will have implications. Parking, if you live on off-street parking, then you can get away with a bigger van. But if you're parking on the road every night, we rarely take the van home now because we don't have parking, and it takes a bit longer to park it and all that side of things. So it's finding the right van for your circumstances, I think, a lot of the time, and it's that initial search that you need to put the research in.
So how are we going to help people today find or choose a camper van over anything else and find their ideal van?
So today we're going to be talking about all the different things that you can do with a camper van. I think it's going to be a bit of the lifestyle stuff. It's going to be some of the legal stuff as well, because the advantage that I found at my age with my licence is if I wanted to go anything too much bigger than what I had. If you're looking into motorhomes and larger vehicles,
The T4 short wheelbase is...
yeah, your license does start to sort of stop that. Whereas a camper van, pretty much anyone that's got a UK license can drive one.
Yeah. Up to, what is it, 7.5 tonnes, something like that? Don't quote me on that.
It's less than that, because I looked into, I think it's 3.5.
Right.
It depends on your age.
Uh-huh.
I think if you got your license after 97, I believe, there's some. I think you're restricted to a lot more than others. So yeah, that's one of the things that I found when looking. And yeah, I guess it's all to do with where you're going to end up. We mentioned earlier about going to the beach and a day van conversion, whereas if you're going somewhere a bit more off-road, you've got to build a van to tackle that, and you can do that.
So when you started here, you didn't really know what a camper van is. You didn't. Well, I'm going to use you as the perfect example.
I probably
actually.
am the perfect example.
So we can potentially, because we do write some notes down, and we want to have a bit of structure to the channel. But maybe should just interview you. Really,
we can. I can ignore my computer. and We can go with that idea. Yeah.
So, when you started here, you literally knew nothing about camper vans, and within 6 weeks of working here, 6 weeks to 8 weeks, you'd bought yourself your first vehicle, I guess. So, what is it that first of all appealed to you? Again, we're talking to people out here who are on this journey. They've chosen to listen to us because we can help them. What are the things you considered, and why choose a camper van over anything else?
Yeah,
what was it that was working here or working on the vans that you liked?
That's what's interesting, because you said choosing a camper van over anything else. When I started, I fell in love with your Mark III Golf a little bit.
Oh, right.
And you mentioned it, you going, oh, well, it needs this, this and this, you can have it for this. And I went online and looked at the insurance and how much that was going to cost me. And then you then went, well, don't you want a van? And I was like, I never really thought about that. And it's one of those things that if you haven't been told by someone about it, or you're not in the industry,
or introduced to it,
introduced to it, it seems that it's not in reach. I don't know. It seems you always say, "Oh, right, camper van. Well, it's going to cost me." 20.
It's a dream.
Yeah, it's going to cost me 20 grand to buy.
It's a nice dream, and we'll think about it one day. But first of all, let's get the mortgage, whatever.
Yeah.
But in reality,
well, that's what the thing is. I was sat there and thinking, well, I've got a little bit of savings. Can I afford one? Like, because you look online and people are selling these camper vans, like brand new T5 camper vans, for like £30,000. It's like, well, that's never going to happen. And it was speaking to you about building one on a budget, and that's what I went and did. I picked my van up.
Let's lay it all out. What did you spend on your first van?
I spent £3,000 on a 2003 T4.
Yep.
With, I believe, it had about 140,000 miles on it at the time.
And it was a very good car too, wasn't it? It was a very good van. It had a very well serviced engine. It had some nice leather seats. It was lowered. It had a roof rack and everything else. But what was perfect was it was a completely blank canvas for you to make your mark.
Yeah, so the history of it was owned by a council somewhere for up until about 7 years ago. So it had been serviced well, and it was in good condition. And then it was a friend of yours that loves VWs, and he'd looked after it as well. So when I got it, it was blank canvas.
Didn't want for anything apart from your touch.
Yeah, so it was great for me at that time because I had no experience in it, and it was a great thing to learn as well. I could learn with my van.
And that's a safe bet too for anybody who wants to buy a van, for example, their first van. If you are on a budget, although people think a Volkswagen van is out of reach and everything else, if you do search the pages, you can find a very good example. Or if you speak to somebody like us or somebody in the trade, or even to your local club, for example, there are good vehicles out there.
Yeah, you've got to be careful at the moment because we've all seen some adverts out there and they're dreaming prices.
Yeah, since July 2020, when the world was told you can't go abroad for holiday, the whole campervan market went bonkers.
Yeah.
And the prices went bonkers.
Yep.
So yes, you're right. You do have to be careful. So if you are looking for any type of van, I guess that's the first great piece of advice, is to take somebody with you who knows what they're looking at.
Yeah.
Don't go in there with your rose tinted, because we deal every day with people who have bought camper vans with rose tinted specs, and they get burnt, don't they, quite a bit.
Well, that's the thing. You need to go with someone who has knowledge on it. Obviously, I was lucky knowing you knew the person who owned it and you'd known the van for a few years. Before then, I've always been lucky. My dad's a mechanic, so whenever I've been buying a car, I've taken him along. I mean, a few times I've ignored his advice and bought a 20-year-old Fiat and then paid the consequences. But most of the time, yeah, you take someone along with you and they point out the obvious things. So that's first piece of advice is make sure you're sourcing the right one.
Yeah.
So then after that, it was converting it.
Yeah.
And again, that's the whole thing. You see, I mean, we all look at the Pinterest examples and you look at that and you think, that costs thousands.
Yeah.
And you fall in love with that dream. But there's more and more people creeping up, sort of posting results of vans that haven't cost as much. And I think that's the whole area that you can look into if you are working on a budget.
But yours, going back to the big question, why choose it? So for a start, the first thing you've gone, as a young lad in your early 20s, insurance. Right, you could spend a couple of grand on a GTI, which has got 5 seats, but can you go camping in it? No. Can you carry mountain bikes or your boats on the roof? Yes, but you've then lost the purpose of having a GTI, for example. But if you have a specialist insurance company or a specialist insurance policy, then it's actually really easily obtainable. So you chose that over potentially a sports car, because of insurance.
Well, that was the thing with the insurance is the car I had when I started it wasn't a sports car as such, it was a sportier model. And that's one of the reasons why I got rid of that in the end was the 2 insurance groups. When as a under 25, I was finding I was paying £800 for each one, and when you look at that, I got rid of that car just before the insurance came around, because the vans at my age it's coming down a little bit now, but it was I think £800 for the first year, then the car was £700, and it's that balance. But that's what I was saying about I didn't miss the car, although it was more fun to drive. I could still use the camper van as a great daily vehicle.
And that would lead us on into the next thing. So you've chosen a camper van for one of the first reasons is, well, there's 2 reasons there. Obtainability, because you can buy one for good money. Same price as a small hatchback, fast hatchback. Secondly, insurance. So that's 2 good things ticked. And secondly, it was your lifestyle, which is a big thing for everybody. People choose a camper van because of their lifestyle. And, well, what do you use your van for, Dan?
Yeah, so that was the thing, is I've always been interested in and loved going outdoors, and we've lived, not luckily, to live down the beach, and used to love mountain biking, and I've done water sports before, and it was one of those things that, again, it feels so like unobtainable that you can't do these sort of things easily. You have to go to a place and rent stuff, and that was one of the things I found when I had my van, is I could throw the bikes in the back and go anywhere I wanted. I bought some kayaks off a Facebook group for absolutely nothing. I've spent £20 for each kayak, which is absolutely pennies for them, and they were strapped onto the roof and until
awesome on the roof of your van.
It was sort of it sort of defined the look of it, and I kept them on there all year round. I drove around with them on there all the time, because for the point of taking them off and storing them somewhere, they're like 8 foot long, so they don't fit easily anywhere.
And they're still in my garage.
Yeah, well, I'm storing them in your garage now because I want to put solar panels on the top, but that's a different story. But when you pay £20 for a kayak, you can leave it on there. And if someone nicks it, you're not going to be too upset about it. So that was one of the things I found, is having these things that get you out, enjoying what you want to be doing, and not worrying too much about it. Because I think that's the thing, is you see these brand new vans going out the door and you're like, oh, wow, that looks amazing. I'd be scared to touch it. You know what I mean? You wouldn't want to scratch anything.
And
I
we've
think
churned out some nice vans here, and I think to myself, God, I would not want to leave that in a Tesco's car park, and I would not. We've had, unfortunately, as you do anywhere, you have a couple of little whoopsies, don't you? And we've marked a van and we've had to pay the consequences. But a van such as yours, for example, it wasn't the newest, it wasn't the best, but you knew you could throw your bikes on the back, your boats on the roof, and you could live out that lifestyle. And since then, you have converted it yourself through not only the stuff that we've doing. Obviously, you've learnt your trade on the job, which means you can convert your van on the job, and you've done it for cheap. But for anybody else out there, there's services such as ours that we can either build one for you, or You can go onto YouTube, you can go and buy books, and you can convert your own.
Yeah.
And so that's potentially for the self builders out there, I guess. That's another reason. So we've now got obtainability, the insurance, the lifestyle,
Yeah.
and converting it yourself. There's
Yeah,
a lot of people
yeah,
out there who, especially when the first lockdown hit, people found us. People realised that they could do it themselves, and then there's been hundreds and thousands of people converting vans because yes, it's doable and you can call it your own. And people have been in touch with us and gone, I've never ever even considered doing anything like this, but since watching your videos, I now think I've got the confidence to do it. They've then gone out, they've spent thousands of pounds on a base van, they've then done all the research and found the bits and pieces. And because I guess that's a project that they can call their own.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you might be in the fortunate position where you're in a house and it's all decorated, or your kids have grown up and there's that job's done. Raise them.
Yeah.
They're good. They're done. Maybe I can build my own van now. So there's like another reason. If you want a project for yourself, there's a bloody good project there.
Yeah.
And it's something you can do in a 6-week summer holiday, or it's something you could do over a 6-year period and use it in between. So there's another good thing there as well.
Yeah, and I think going back to that is you can. I found with mine, it was not caring what anyone thought about it. I absolutely love my. It's a bit different. I'm saying all this, but I've since then ripped out the interior and I'm in the process of building it again. So it's back to a panel van almost with nothing in the back. But I built my bed and units out of old pallet wood. I didn't really care what it looked like, really. The bedding cushions were ones that we'd ripped out of an old van that were going in a skip, and I was like, well, it'll save me a bit of money. We'll chuck them in, we'll wax them and clean them up. And we see a lot of really pretty vans, but I wanted to build mine fairly cheaply and get out and start using it. And it was not really caring that it wasn't the best looking van in terms of the interior, and just getting out there and enjoying it. Which is like what I found was...
That's the next one then. The money.
Yeah.
The budget.
Yeah.
You can look out for... You can have a budget of, say, 10 grand. You go, right, we're not going on holiday this year. Normally we spend anywhere between 2 and 10 grand on holiday, depending on who you are, depending on what budget you've got and your circumstances, etc., etc. All of a sudden, bosh, you've had to ring up all your agencies and cancel all your holidays, and you potentially got 10 grand kicking around. What are you going to do with it? Well, let's get the thing we've always wanted. Let's go and get that camper van.
Yeah.
But we've only got 10 grand. And now if you were to pay somebody to build your camper van, you are looking upwards of 10 grand just for the work.
Yeah.
You took that to a day van, a posh day van,
Yeah.
with a good crash-tested bed. You can be looking at 10 grand to pay somebody to do it because it's down to labour.
Yeah.
Or you could selectively get companies to fit X, Y, and Z. You want a certificated bed, get somebody to fit it. But for the most part, you can do it all yourself.
Yeah.
So it's down to the money. And as you proved, you're probably, 4-5 grand max into your van?
Yeah, because that's the pallet wood was the business next door that was
Free.
just getting rid of it, and that's another. If you know any industrial estate, it's a bit different at the moment. Obviously, COVID, you can't go around meeting people and stuff, but there are wood recycling plants that will get it all, and they'll take all the nails out, and they'll sell you X amount of wood for hardly anything, and they're good places to go to. So Google search for your local area, will find those, and yeah, it's spending the money in the right places. So obviously, one of the things I did spend money on was my leisure battery and the lighting side of things.
That's right.
Because with the electrics, you don't want to take any chance with buying sort of second-hand stuff. You don't know how it's been treated. And again, getting all the mechanical side of things right first before you go and
that's one
build
thing
the
I would
van.
say to everybody is no matter what vehicle you buy, be it a 5-year-old T6
Yeah.
or a 35-year-old T4, T25, T3. Get it mechanically straight first. Don't go out there and go and lower it and put some wheels on it. This is like my dad head talking, but somebody who's built 100 vans.
Yeah.
And yes, I will do whatever I'm told. If somebody wants me to, furnish the cushions or reupholster the cushions or fit a heater in before they've even touched the fuel lines,
Yeah.
I will gently advise that you're potentially spending your money in the wrong place first, because you've got to make sure it's mechanically running right.
Yeah, and those things, it's a difficult one to do, because I've a few times gone, right, I've got this money, all right, shall I go and buy that? And it's like, well, no, because when you're buying the lowering kit and the sidebars or the new interior, you can see that and it's great and it looks amazing, you can show it off and all that, but when you're looking at the mechanical side of it, it's if it goes seriously wrong,
you don't want to be going on your summer holiday and be stuck on the side of the M4.
Yeah, and that lowered body kit and the new interior is going to look great when it's stuck in your garage and you can't take it anywhere.
Well, so you could either get a nice shiny set of alloys or a year's membership to the AA. You know, you got to tie that up. So, but I mean, we touched on it very briefly, but so we've done the money thing. Yep. And you can build a van for pennies if you really want to. You can actually build a van for pennies.
We'll go into that more in another episode.
And we want to do that, don't we? That's one of the things. We want to buy a van, not necessarily VW. We want to buy a van for as cheap as possible. We might even buy an old van with 2 days MOT on it, for example.
Yeah.
An old camper with 2 days MOT on it. And then try our best to build a van for as cheap as possible, and then maybe go and do the North Coast 500, or go and run it down a strip at Bug Jam or something like that. Go and do an epic journey. We'll take it down to Trafalgar or, wherever it may be. But, you can do it on a complete budget. Absolutely. But I think, there's one of 100 reasons why you choose a camper van. And what have we done now? We've done all the sort of the reasons what you can do with it and the cost of it, and I think one thing we haven't touched on is why you do that over maybe going and buying yourself a motorhome or going and buying a tent and going camping and that side of things, because that's an argument for against them. There's pros and cons of each. If you're someone who really likes their walk-in and you've got a little 2-man tent that you absolutely love, and you can go and do that side of things, but at the end of the day, I think the campers are great from what we've seen as well, is the people that love the outdoors but don't want to be laying on the floor in a tent for 2 weeks in summer. Because it's like a race, isn't it? See how quickly I can set up and get my beer out the fridge or my wine out the cabinet or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, utilising all the van.
Yeah, because you're going on holiday to sort of relax and chill out and see the area. When you just take a tent and all that sort of thing, you spend one day setting up and then one day packing away. So I think that's
definitely a 4 over a tent.
Yep, the advantage.
The advantage that
I hate tent camping, so I'm not going to say any positives.
Yeah,
about
see,
it.
I've never had any real bad experiences. Now, bearing in mind, I used to be in the Scouts when I was a kid. I've done years of living outside in the army, and since done camping with my family. And tents aren't the worst, but I guess it's if you're in that frame of mind of doing it, and the weather can be the pits, but campervan's certainly one up. And what we've done actually before we started the episode, and that we put it out there to some of our Patreon listeners, Patreon supporters, and some of our Instagram followers. We put a little story out there about an hour or so, wasn't it, before we started the podcast? We were like, right. We put the question of the title of the podcast out to the people and said, right, let's find out why you have chosen a campervan. And I think it's a great chance to hear what they've got to say.
Yeah, so we've got a few from Instagram. The majority of the people on Instagram were saying the convenience of just being able to get out and sort of pitch up straight away, get your glass of wine out the fridge. We had some really nice ones from Patreon. We had Andy Mullers, who saying he had a 28-foot yacht, and him and his wife used to go sailing, and it was when they had kids. They didn't want to then carry on out sailing, obviously safety reasons and stuff, but they still liked getting away and sort of being a bit more off-grid. So they looked at transits. Then they saw the T4 and loved that look. They bought themselves a T4. And since then, they've had a whole list of different camper vans, and they're now on a T5 and a T2. So they've got a couple at the moment.
And so a modern and an oldie.
Yeah, so they got a couple
at the moment. So they went from living on a boat, and that's through a life choice and a lifestyle choice, I guess.
I don't know if they lived on it. They said they owned one, so it was a 28-foot yacht, so I don't think it was
that's awesome.
Quite livable, but yeah.
And on more of the brief reasons, I guess, I've got some answers via Instagram, so thank you everybody on Instagram. One that just says freedom.
Yep.
Why campervan? Freedom. I think that's great.
Well, it's the
freedom to go where and stay wherever I wish, within reason.
Yeah.
You can't just rock up on someone's drive and go.
Well, that's one of the other things with the campervan over the motorhome is the motorhomes are typically high tops. So they're great for the facilities. So you typically got a shower in there, you've got a seating area and a sleeping area. But trying to get it into a car park anywhere, most sort of beaches now have restricted car parks to stop people in motorhomes turning up. So if you've got yourself a standard van and you haven't raised it too much and you haven't done what I'd done and put 2 massive canoes on the roof, then you're probably going to be able to go pretty much wherever you want.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things, especially as using it as a daily sort of thing, is it's not going to interrupt your day too much, especially with these parking barriers. We've all seen the pictures of people with high top vans slicing their van in half trying to get in.
Bending the roofs of the laptop, for sure.
Trying to get in.
But going into more of those, there is, in the funny side of it, why have you chosen a campervan or why choose a camper? Somebody says, this is at VWT3 Halber. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, I can't read that. He says, I don't like to stack money. Yeah, so... Yes, you can build them on a budget, or you can spend a lot of money on a van. So, but don't be fooled by that. Again, people are saying freedom. I'm looking at these all through Instagram right now. Again, exactly as you just said, there still fits in a regular garage. Yes, if you build your van right, or you choose the right van, you can still fit it in your garage. You can still fit it in any garage. Somebody else says Urban Arc Overland, who's a follower of ours, because a baby has so much stuff and needs on a day out. Definitely. Those with kids will know that babies are maybe small, but they need a lot of baggage to go anywhere.
Yeah, we've got a similar one actually from one of our patrons, Sean. He has 2 deerhounds, which, if you don't know, are one of the biggest dogs you can have, and he's found the camper van is one of the only vehicles he could comfortably go away with those.
And I guess that definitely fits into the lifestyle side, doesn't it?
Yeah,
so we've got our 5 or 6 different main reasons now, and that is what the big one, isn't it? Lifestyle.
I think, there's such a vehicle that you can, if you buy a panel van, you're going to do it yourself. You've got a blank canvas. You've got 2 meters by a meter roughly that you can do pretty much whatever you want with. And we've seen that with vans that come into here. There's so many different people. We had the guy that did the windsurfing, and he'd used a pop top to then.
The pop top was his living area of the van.
So the standard panel van was all storage.
For his windsurfing boards and it was windsurfing. Yeah, it was windsurfing. So he had all his sails, and they were all concealed, all within a Transit Custom.
Yeah,
and you'd never know from the outside. I don't think you could even tell it had a pop top. But instead of using the pop top just as a second sleeping area, for example, that was his living space. It was just headroom, wasn't it? The pop top, which is really, really clever. And we fitted a heater into that one, I think, didn't we? That was the one where you had to crawl into one of those storage areas. So we had to push the smallest you into member of the coffin, team.
I had to go,
and pull you back out again.
But I think whilst we're on that thing as well, it can be customised in the sense of you can use it in the sense of the pod systems that you can now get. You can, if you want it as a work van or just worked with 40 Winks who turn combi vans into campers with a simple bed system and stuff like that. You can get a van that can be so multi-purpose in the fact of you can put your tools in it Monday to Friday and use it for work, and then you can use your bolt-in system and go away at the weekend.
Yeah, so versatility. For sure. And the fact that a combi van could be your family vehicle from Monday to Friday, and then you fold down the 40 Winks bed and it turns into your camper van, and you put an awning on the side or whatever, and there's your extra sleep. Yeah. No, I completely understand. And it's why obviously the industry's gone crazy.
Yeah.
We're in this industry because, we started the business because we loved what we do. And
why did you get a camper van many moons ago?
That's a good question. I never wanted to buy a camper van.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Good advertisement.
Yeah, no, it was quite because I was always into the old air-cooled Beetles.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I had a Beetle, and it was my dream car, and it took me all over the place. And I was looking at getting a second car, so I bought a Mark 1 Golf, slammed Mark 1 Golf, and we're talking 2005, maybe earlier. I hated it. Absolutely hated it for one of 100 reasons, but absolutely hated it. And then, so I sold that. No, I part X that because somebody offered me a T3 Synchro, and I had no idea what a Synchro was then. And it was super cheap. It was $3,500.
Wow.
I was like, what? You can't buy like a Synchro 4-wheel drive system for $3,500 now. But I bought a whole van for camper as well for $3,500. And the moment I sat in that, when I took it for a test drive, the moment I sat in that driver's seat, bearing in mind I'd been used to a Beetle, which is a tiny cabin, and the back window's here.
Yeah. The windscreen's above you.
And when I sat in that camper van and I drove it and I was in an elevator position, and the rear screen was all the way back there, and in between that point and me there was a bed, there was a cooker, there was this, that, and that. I was like, this is the best. So within seconds of driving my first camper van, that was me set. I was in love from the first moment I drove a camper van, and that's been it. I haven't owned a Beetle since. I sold that Beetle very quickly after.
Really?
I haven't owned. No, I must have bought a couple of Beetle projects. I have, yeah. I never finished one. But I have had.
Oh, you're going to try and count how many vans you've had?
No, I must have purchased and sold maybe 50 vans in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Easy. Mainly like that ones that are buy and sell and you break or you make a bit of money on, whatever it may be. And we've worked on countless more. The reason I did that, because I just absolutely fell in love with them. I was in my early to mid 20s. I would go to VW shows, and again, like you say, I'd rock up to a show and wouldn't have a tent. I'd have the van. I'd be like, yes, the best. So yeah, that's my story very briefly, because I drove one, fell in love with it, and it suited my lifestyle in that I could build it myself, and I'm very hands-on. I like to innovate with things and build my own stuff and everything else and do research, and it was through building my first camper van that I fell in love with documenting it. And I documented the build of my first camper build bully on Club 8090, and that's still up there if you can find it. And yeah, which kind of led to where we are today, I guess, like 10 years later.
Yeah,
Which is bonkers, isn't it? So yeah, that's why I did it. And if anybody out there is listening and they want to tell us their story, I would love to hear why you've done it. Why you've bought us.
We've got a couple more.
Sorry,
we've got a couple more from Patreon.
Yeah, go on.
We can go into. So Richard Davis has said, "We've always been into camping in tents. On our last camping break, I saw a family pull up in a transporter, and their setup looked really good. And I thought to myself, I want one of them." So jealousy, maybe.
Yeah, jealousy, great reason.
So I started looking
keeping up with the Joneses, another good reason.
I started looking at van conversions and came across Combe Valley Campers on YouTube. I saw a vast array of how-to videos and thought, yeah, I can do this. 3.5 months later, I'm well into my conversion. Thanks for your online instructions and
that
support.
Is awesome. That's really good.
It's really good that he's seen someone else do it and thought, yep, that's the lifestyle I want to live. And it's almost, again, that sort of the whole thing I found wasn't really introduced to it. He had no idea he wanted to do it. He's seen someone else, and they've sort of inspired him, probably not knowingly. And now he's jumped in and done it himself.
That's awesome. So one of 100 reasons, and I think, like I say, I'd love to hear other people's stories as to why they've done it. So if you ever wanted to, post onto us or reply to us, or even leave down in the comments below, because for those listening to the podcast, if you want to view our wonderful faces,
not that you would,
you can view this podcast on YouTube as well. So hello everybody on YouTube. It's a big decision to make. Buying a camper van, and if choosing a camper van, I guess. And so why a camper van? I think, although we haven't gone massively into it, I think we've covered a fair amount of why you would choose one. And
would one thing be an investment as well if you pick the right van? It's a difficult one because they
yes. Do you know what I'm going to say? Yes.
Vary.
If you were to say buy a panel van and you were to spend some good money on it and you do it to a good standard and you can make some money on it, then yes, absolutely. And there are hundreds of people out there who do that. They buy vans, convert them, and then make money. So they can be.
If you're looking at long term as well, so if I was to go and buy myself now a Type 25 for £7,000, it's not going to lose much, is it?
Fashions come and go in terms of VWs, especially. I don't know about many other brands and marks and everything else, but 5-6 years ago, bay window buses prices were sky high. They've now hit rock bottom. Whereas because of this increased demand on vans, Type 25s, T4s, even early T5s, they've all gone up in value again. Van traders out there can't buy vans quick enough because the demand is so high. So everything's kind of going up in price at the moment, and because people like that lifestyle of being able to drive their Audi Q7 from to and from the school run every day and then get into a 40-year-old car, they're not going to do that. So T5s and stuff are becoming more and more popular. So Type 25s, yes, because they are the last of the rear-engined iconic style of, say, Volkswagen, for example. But yeah, there's
something to be careful on then.
Yes, definitely. It can be an investment, but yeah, do a lot of research.
Yep.
Do a lot of research before you even consider it as investment. Do it because you want to. Do it because you want to, for all of the reasons we've covered.
Do it for I think that's a good point. Is to do it for
Think with your head,
you and not anyone else. I guess.
Think with your head and your heart.
Yeah.
Because you can fall in love, and again, we've seen it 100 times. People go out, they buy the first camper van they see because they instantly think of that delightful journey they're going to have down to the West Coast.
Yeah.
And they completely forget that they're buying a classic car.
Yep.
So that's very much
not
one
going to perform the same way as your
no,
brand new BMW.
they don't even brake or change gear in the same way.
Yeah. And then the last comment we've got from our patrons from Dave Fletcher, and he said it was the perfect project during COVID, which we found more than most that's what a lot of people are doing, and I think it's a good distraction potentially.
Mm-hmm.
You're sort of stuck on your driveway
On furlough.
Yep. Or not got much to do, everything closed. You know that you can. We're lucky that the parts are still coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can.
What with our borders now being
Yeah.
hideously difficult to manoeuvre. It's not looking good, is it? Really?
No. Well, we'll carry on soldiering on that positive note. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. I think it's why choose a camper van for all of those reasons. It is absolute. I love it. My kids love it. People grew up with camper vans. People grew up with memories of going on holiday, even in a tent or in an old caravan, or going to the, mobile home down on the coast, and they want to relive that or give their kids that opportunity to have, grow up with those sorts of memories. So a nostalgia thing as well, isn't it?
That's what a lot of people were saying. It's a great way of connecting with the family and enjoying those sort of moments.
So, to sum up, there is no disadvantages.
There's too many points to say there is one reason, and I guess to different people, things will have different meanings. Mm-hmm. We support them and absolutely love them, and we've all had great times doing them. Obviously, when the shows start again, they're another great thing. There's the community aspect.
Community is massive.
Yeah,
love it.
I know we talk about VWs and we all own VWs, but these shows, they're not VW shows. They are campervan shows, and we see a lot of different vehicles there, and a lot of people enjoying it. And hopefully they'll start up again soon. Because that's another reason.
In the meantime, we will continue to do this. We will continue to help people choose and convert their vans, because ultimately all of this will be back to normal-ish, and we can all get out there and enjoy time with our families and enjoy our vans and everything else. But if you are on your journey and you have considered buying a van and you have found us, I hope that we have been helpful. Yeah. And we hope that we have convinced you one way or another to get a van, or at least a newer van or an older van. But this is the first, isn't it? This is the episode. We're going to call this, episode 2, aren't we? I guess.
I think it was going to be episode 1, wasn't it? Because last week was the pilot, or we're going episode 2.
I think we have to call it episode 2, according to the powers that be.
Yeah.
So this is the second episode, but the first of the taking you through the journey of buying your van, or choosing a van, buying a van, maintaining it, converting it, repairing it, and ultimately we'll be sharing beautiful journeys, beautiful destinations. We'll be talking with industry experts. So this isn't the only one we're going to do. We are going to take you on the entire journey. We're going to be speaking with those who have travelled the world. We're going to be speaking with those who have travelled down the beach every blooming day. We're going to be speaking to those who build the parts and design the parts for your van. So don't go anywhere. We shall be bringing you a podcast every week for the foreseeable future. Yes. And everybody I'm looking at now is going, thanks, Lou.
We're going to be busy.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, it is a lot of work doing this, but we absolutely love it, and we love bringing the stuff to you too. So
absolutely. So I've listened to this podcast. I've decided I'm going to have a camper van.
Yeah.
What is the next video that's going to help me along that journey?
Nice segue, Dan.
Link there.
So yeah, we are going to look into next pointers to look out for when choosing your van, and what van to choose that will suit you. We'll be looking into what type of camping you want to do.
Yep.
The amount of people you need to sleep in your van.
Yep.
Your budget.
Yep.
Your lifestyle. And all of those things.
Yeah, so a lot of the points we've been making today, but more sort of trying to push people towards what might work for them, and to look into that area.
Pushing, advising.
We're not pushing anyone. We're kind and friendly here.
Yeah, so...
we're not salesmen in that sense.
And again, like, we're very, very new to this. So let us know what you think about the podcast for a start. I'm really enjoying myself. But are you enjoying listening to it? I believe there is a rating system that you can click on, like a Google review or something like that. So please rate us. Tell us what you think of it, either in YouTube comments.
We should have put that halfway through. We'd have lost them by now, wouldn't we, those people? They're long gone now.
And if you've listened to the whole thing all the way through, thank you very much. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you on the next one. It's going to be awesome. I'm really, really enjoying this. So thank you, everybody, for giving us the opportunity. Thank you mainly to our patrons who have, because of their support, helped us buy these beautiful microphones, helped us buy the recording equipment, has facilitated a cameraman and all of the bits and pieces you see around us.
Absolutely.
These trinkets are mine, but... everything else you see around us or hear around us, this has been down to our wonderful, beautiful Patreon supporters.
Absolutely.
So for that, thank you. And if you want to support us as a channel, as a podcast, you can head over to www.combevalleycampers.co.uk and you will find links to pretty much everything we do. Right? So Dan over there is our man for building the website. So if you've got any complaints, go and speak to him. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to the website.
We don't have a complaints department, unfortunately. So
yeah, go speak to HR. So yeah, I think. I look forward to the next one already.
Yep.
We're going to say every Thursday evening, fresh upload for you, and you will find us on.
We are going to be on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts,
YouTube,
yes, you can watch it.
And hopefully all of the other podcast
Amazon
applications that you may have.
Yep, we're still getting them on there.
We're trying our hardest. It's still very new to us, but thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reaching this far, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you very much, Dan. It's been a pleasure.